my years in Greenwich, 71 to 78, I had the great honor of becoming friends with Jan Peerce, and he was blind in one eye. When we became friends, I loved to spend time with him, and we would go to New York at the same time almost 3-4 times a week. We became so close that I would drive him. For the 6-7 years, I drove him to New York, and we had the most wonderful time. He was a great Metropolitan Opera tenor, one of the most famous in history, but he loved to sing cantorial. He was not a cantor by profession, and he loved to sing Yiddish concert songs, and he was also a wonderful, wonderful raconteur. He loved to tell stories and hear stories. So here's a few true stories that happened when I was with Jan Peerce. So the first one I want to tell, because he wanted to thank me for driving me to New York with him. And I said, you don't have to thank me. I love being with you and spending time. He said, no, it's a very nice thing you're doing. I can do his voice. Did you scale today? No, I didn't scale today. Do I sing as well as you do? You sing better than me. I scale every day, and you should do. So that was Jan Peerce. So we go on a cruise, and he would do one night. There would be every night of the cruise, 6 nights, a different singer, performer, actor. So on one of the evenings, the maitre d', or the ship's director of talent, was singing. And he was positively the worst singer I ever heard in my life. And all that morning, Jan Peerce he liked to pontificate. He says, you know, Herschel, never tell a lie. The best swindle is the truth. If you don't tell a lie, you'll never forget what you said. I said, okay, never tell a lie. I said, never tell a lie. Fine. That night, David sings, and he was horrible, and he sees the great opera singer, Jan Peerce, sitting at the table right under him, and he wants a word of praise from Jan Peerce. And every time he sang, Jan Peerce kept, oh, God, listen to that horrible voice. Oh, my God. That note is worse than the last one. Oh, my God. So he comes up to Jan Peerce and says, Mr. Peerce, how did you like my singing? And Peerce says, David, very interesting. And David was looking for more, right? So he says, and what did you think of the repertoire? Rich repertoire? He says, finally, he says, what did you think of my voice? David, you have a phenomenal voice. You have a marvelous voice. And we leave, and I poke Peerce. I say, always tell the truth. Never tell but wait, he says to me, always tell the truth unless you're talking about the guy who puts in the report about my performance to the Holland American office in New York. So that's one story. Let me tell you one more. He was not a guy that liked to spend a lot of money if he didn't have to. He was very generous. I saw it with my own eyes. He gave phenomenal amounts to stock it. But, you know, he was a kid who grew up on the Lower East Side. So if we were in his house talking, he'd say, hey, you know, the light is on the library. Turn it off. I mean, he was just a wonderful man. But he had a little bit of that habit. So we're going on one of the cruises, not this cruise, another cruise. We get off in the Bahamas. And I remember we got off. I saw a bunch of old men who lived there walking with like little Bahama shorts, and he's got a little bag. I say, what's in the bag? He says, yeah, the piano player was Alan Rogers, phenomenal pianist, professor of music in Boston University and in Boston. And he says, you know, guys, he says to the two of us, he says, I want to get a refund on this tie. And Alan says, and Mr. Peerce, when did you buy the ties? About 5 years ago. He says, how much was the tie? $15, he says. And I want a refund. I didn't know. I'm colorblind. I bought a black tie. I'm not going to wear a black tie. He says, Alan, I would like you to ask for the refund. He says, Alan says, like Alan and I are like kids of 7 years old. Says, why can't Herschel return the tie? He says, because Alan, we are in the Bahamas. These are not Herschel's people. They don't sing with the Yiddish sing song. These are your people, and you will be able to exchange the tie. And Alan is walking there like he's going to his death, like this, right? And finally, as we open the door, I believe the place was called J.D. Cunningham and Sons. I think. I don't know if it's around still. And finally, he says, Jan Peerce takes the tie and says, okay, I'll do it myself. And he goes up to the first man, a little short man with knobby knees. He says, sir, my name is Jan Peerce. And this guy looks at him. He says, Mr. Peerce, my name is Eddie Moskowitz. I'm from the Bronx. And Jan Peerce looks at Alan Rogers and I, and he says, fellas, I ain't gonna have no trouble exchanging the style. Oh, I want to tell you one more thing before I go to my life in California. I was on WED radio many, many times. I sang in Yiddish on the Forward Hour. That was an hour of Yiddish show every week. And it had been running for over 50 years at the point where I was on it. About once every 6-7 weeks. I was one of the regular guys. And then the president of Coca-Cola in New York State was a member of the shul in Greenwich, as I told you, a real poor shul. And he gave me 13 shows, and I interviewed the greats in Jewish music. So I had a wonderful, wonderful life. And I was the cantorial disc jockey twice a week. I played the great records of the great cantors, and I interviewed some of them. So that was my life in New York. And then I moved to California.